Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Miss Hani Islam, founder of Kombucha Brewers India. Hani is a graduate of Madurai Kamaraj University and has worked with companies such as Ernst and Young for 9 years before starting her own venture in 2019. Hi Hani, welcome to ELI.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Hani, would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Hani, and I am the founder of Kombucha Brewers India. It's a fermentation-based food startup, and we have our own brand of a ready-to-drink kombucha, which is fermented tea, and it is known for having a lot of antioxidant properties, and it has been an ancient food which was discovered accidentally in China, and we are trying to bring that method here and use Indian teas and Indian botanicals to make a fully fermented and natural gut healing food and beverage that people can enjoy anytime.
Okay. Hani, tell us a bit more about kombucha. I think this is the first time I'm hearing this word kombucha, and I'm pretty sure many of our audience are not aware about this product. Can you tell us what is the industry like? Is it available worldwide, or is it the first time we are
Yeah,
seeing such a product?
definitely. So, kombucha goes back a really long time in history, somewhere around 220 BC in Southeast Asia, especially in the Manchuria region of China. Uh, Somebody accidentally discovered that a teapot with tea was sitting for a really long time, and somebody just took the risk and sipped it, and they figured that it doesn't taste like tea anymore. It tastes tangy, but it is still pleasing. It is not rotten. So that teapot became the very first vessel where kombucha was discovered. So what the people at the time did was they kept saving some portion from that batch and started putting it in their tea, so fresh tea, and they would let it become stale for a while and then they would drink it. So during this whole process, a very visible layer of a byproduct, a leathery pellicle grows on top of the teapot. So people started saving that, saving the liquid, and they started sharing that culture with their friends and family. And it kind of traveled to the noble class also. The king during that time, they were very fond of that tea. And from China, it traveled to Japan and Korea, where it grew popularity among the noble class as well as the commoners. And during the time of when Silk Route was just, becoming very popular for trade, people from Southeast Asia took kombucha to Europe, to Russia, first of all, and it became really popular in Russia. So even now, it is known as tea kvass in Russia. It's another name for kombucha. It became immensely popular there, and it traveled to Europe from there. And from Europe, it traveled to the New World, United States, where it still was a home brewing beverage. It was not a commercially available beverage. So people would brew it at home. They would have gotten that SCOBY, the culture, from their friends and family somewhere in the East. And then they would just brew it, share with their family, share with their friends. Pretty much that's it. But around 1990s, there is this guy called GT Dave in the US. He started brewing kombucha in his home, and he was inspired by his mother and father, who were big believer of Eastern philosophy, and they had gotten their kombucha culture from India actually. And got inspired by what the kombucha was doing to his mother's health. It was having a positive impact on her health, and that inspired him to brew himself. And he started to share it with his friends and his circle. And then he decided to take his bottles to a nearby grocer. And from there, he started to sell the kombucha. And uh, like within like 20 years, the whole industry boomed a lot. And at this point in the US, it's uh, more than $1 billion industry. There are a lot of variation in kombucha which is offered in the market now. There are really big players. There are very artisanal, crafted players as well. And from the customer side of it, there is so much for people to look at in terms of the beverage itself, because it has healing properties. It is all natural, and it actually is a true representation of what microbes can do to our food. It is immensely fascinating to see a sweet tea which is turned into kombucha just because of the bacteria and the yeast present in the culture. So it has been a fascinating journey there. In India, it's fairly in an infancy stage right now. I could say there are quite a lot of action happening in this category, especially the natural food and fermentation category. And it's very exciting time in the as of now. I do see a lot of education already happening in the customer end. People already know what fermented foods are. They know what kombucha is, which is not which was not the case a year ago or 2 years ago when we started in 2018. We had to really go out of our way to educate the customers, educate the businesses, and have them taste it firsthand and then figure out for themselves how they like it. And it's kind of an acquired taste. I wouldn't say it is like apple cider vinegar or is it like some other beverage. Uh, to put things in perspective, I think it's sort of a cross between a tea and an apple juice, which is a bit fizzy. So it's a very, very promising time for our country to see this whole fermentation revival and also see surge in kombucha popularity.
Uh, so,
I,
just out of curiosity, Honey, would like to know, do you get high from drinking kombucha?
Kombucha or any naturally fermented beverage does have traces of alcohol. But having said that, kombucha has specific yeast as well as a combination of bacteria where the yeast makes certain amount of alcohol, but the bacteria are present to eat that alcohol. So the end product will have very less alcohol, as lesser than 1 day old orange juice. So you do not get high when you drink orange juice, isn't it? So it
Right.
will be the same thing with kombucha. You do not get high with kombucha. You'll have to drink an awful lot of it, probably, which you won't be able to, but it's not intoxicating.
Okay. Honey, tell us how complex is the process? Like how the fermentation process, does it take a lot of effort? Since you mentioned a lot of households can make this drink. So I'm very curious to know if it is so easy to make, then why would someone go to market and buy a ready-made kombucha when they can make it in their home?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. If I have to counter, I can ask you, we can make curd at home very easily. Almost all households make curd at home, isn't it? But we still go ahead and buy all sorts of brands, Danone, Nestle, Milky Mist. So the whole idea of home brewing is to go back to its legacy, that it started from home brewing. Kombucha started because people were ready to try it in their homes, and they got so intrigued by the chemistry, by the benefits they were receiving, that they wanted to share it with the world. And that's why they went commercial. They started their own companies. So irrespective of how easy it is to make at home, it is always going to be there will always be an option, a market for these kind of products. And it's the whole fermented foods category can kind of disrupt the way in which we think of our health, our gut health, and in fact food also, because fermentation has multiple aspects. It not only increases the shelf life of the tea which is brewed, but it also uh, enhances the nutrients in it. So whatever ingredients go into making kombucha, they become kind of like the superfood version of themselves. They have higher antioxidants, which your body can easily absorb. They have higher amount of vitamin C, which was not present as much when the fermentation started. They have more B vitamins. So it's just because of the microbes, the nutrients accentuates. So you need to uh, see how it can be made available in the market easily, because not everybody would want to go through the process of brewing it at home and going through this whole learning process also.
Uh, okay, Hani, coming back to the regular course of questions, uh, would like to know, when did you think of becoming an entrepreneur?
Sure. So during my corporate career, uh, I really enjoyed the whole initial uh, feel of working in an environment of really professional people, projects. But very soon I realized that I need to have something of my own, probably as a hobby or something to look forward to during weekends. And that's how I got involved in food writing. And one thing led to another. I started to be more involved during weekends there. And one of the projects I did was volunteer for a food festival in Goa. And that's where I learned about fermentation. And that kind of clicked at that time that I really want to study this and I want to see what I can do for myself. And then I started to learn a lot about it. Started drinking kombucha, tasting kombucha, and even experimenting with other kind of fermented foods. So around the time uh, 2017, 2016 is when this fermentation bug bit me, and I made up my mind that I really want to study this and learn about it and process.
Hani, can you check if my internet is fine? I think I lost you in between.
I can hear you now, but it was little stuck. I think the video was stuck.
No worries, we'll edit that part.
Is it
So,
okay?
yeah, yeah, it is okay now. Uh, so, Hani, coming to my next question, would like to know, you were a tax consultant, if I'm not wrong, or a tax advisor. So, Hani, it is a very huge career shift from a tax advisor to the industry of beverages and brewing. Um, Again, it's a risky decision as well, leaving a fat paycheck job to something that is not very sure, right? So, Hani, would like to know, how did the transition look like? How did your family react to it, and all?
So my family knew that I'm involved in weekend projects, and I do uh, things other than my 9 to 5 job at EY. So they knew that I am involved in a bunch of projects. So and it was not a like I said, I had been doing it for quite some time. I was building my knowledge around it. I was trying to find a trying to focus on what I want to pursue later. And when I was sure, I told them that this is what I'm going to do. And like any other parent, my mother and father, they asked me twice that, are you sure? Is this what you want to do? And I did tell them. I told them confidently that this is what I see myself doing, and I'm pretty sure about it. And my phase of corporate learning has ended now, and I really want to move in the next phase of my career, and which I choose this to be entrepreneurship to be the one. So they were supportive quite well, and that's so I really want to say that during my time in my corporate career, I did start paving the way for entrepreneurship. I did learn on during my weekends or any of my free time. I used to spend a lot of time researching and doing my own trials and errors. So this helped me a lot in making the transition smoother than it would have been if I had just quit and started from scratch. So,
How did you arrange the funds to build this venture?
so we are bootstrapped so far. It's uh, me and my partner. We just got our funds, got everything out online to pursue this, and absolutely no regrets.
But still, there would be initial investment for to set up the brewery and all. No.
So yes, there have been. We still are very small, and we are trying to build from what we learn, because it is um, not a category where you have at least some resources available which you can replicate. Unlike say beer industry or wine industry or even vinegar industry, you know there are players, and you know there are people who can help you set up things. They can provide you services. But with kombucha, it is very unlikely to find somebody out there who can help you set things up. So we knew that there are limitations, and we wanted to begin as soon as possible. So this was the only way to start small, learn from the mistakes, and then go higher. So we are still in this stage. We are like 2+ years old, but we are really fortunate to be learning every single day and building on that. And the whole investment part is still very close to us. We are still bootstrapping by ourselves, and we'll see how it goes from here.
Okay, fair enough. Would like to know how what was your first day of entrepreneurship like? What did you do on the first day?
uh, I'm not sure where to mark the demarcation of like my corporate
How
job
about
or
we consider the day you left the job and then what did you do?
okay, yeah, so I think it was a Saturday. I left my job on Friday. On Saturday, it was a pretty normal day where I got up and opened my laptop to see what is the next thing I have to do. I think I would have had some orders to send, or maybe the social media to update. So it was a pretty smooth transition. I knew what I have for tomorrow to do, and it didn't feel like a big deal somehow. It was very strange. I mean, that part of my life was over, and I was really looking forward to completely devote my time to the new venture.
Okay. Uh, then you spoke of your co-founder as well. Can you tell us how did you find your co-founder?
Well, my co-founder is actually my partner, like my life partner, and he did not want to get involved initially, but I pursued him because he is fabulous. He is consulting himself. So I asked him to join in and see what we can do together. So he takes care of a lot of R&D, which we do here, and he's like just trying to make things better so that we can not just make a better product, but also help others to get started on their fermentation journey, be it home brewers or anybody else who wants to set up their own kombucha manufacturing. So we are just trying to build that up.
Okay. I think I'm getting more curious to know how does it look like when you um, uh, 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 being husband and wife, or being partners in life, and start a venture. How does it look like, when you have disagreements in the personal life? How does it translate to your venture, and vice versa?
So we kind of have set boundaries that I do not interfere in some of his way of work, and he does not uh, like micromanage. So he is the one who does, like I said, research and development, and uh, I have to share a big part of my observations with him. So that becomes more like a professional talk where we do meetings purely based on what he needs and what I'm giving him. And the operations side, if you say, uh, the day-to-day activity and the way I want to run the business, he does not interfere. So we kind of are trying to set boundaries there. It's a work in progress.
Okay. I I'll not get any further on this. Coming to my regular questions, would like to know what is your vision which with this venture? Where you want to take this?
So we want KBI to be in the forefront of microbial foods and cooking when it comes to India. We want to really make food more fundamental and more on the science side of it. We really want to educate people about the power of microorganisms, the yeast, bacteria, the fungi, the molds, which can actually help us solve a lot of food related problems, our health related problems, gut related problems. There are opportunities in industrial application of kombucha also. There are opportunities in research and development, which, uh, as far as I've seen, India is doing a tremendous job in research. So we really want to harness that potential and be known in the kombucha and fermentation category. We really want to create that category, first of all. Yeah.
Honey, here is my question to you. What are the different challenges you have faced along the way while building this venture? I think this is a very new industry to be in. I think the industry is also evolving day by day. What are the typical challenges you face every day, and what are some of the biggest of it?
Okay, there are challenges which I think all businesses in early stage go through, the team, the operations, the technicals. But with the fermentation and kombucha, there are added challenges. The one and the foremost is the education part of it. You really have to invest your time and energy and resources to educate your clients, your customers, everybody whom you try to pitch. They all need to be educated, and it becomes a hard sell for people who are in it for quick buck. So you have to be in this for a long run. You can't just come make money and then just go away. So this has been something we came across initially. But apart from that, I think the technical know-how has been another, I wouldn't say challenge, but a really big learning curve. So from day one till now, we are learning to improve our product. We are trying to innovate as well at the same time, with whatever resources we can collect. There is absolutely nobody whom we can go and say, "Can you do this for us?" There is nobody. So we will have to be the one to do that for ourselves, and it has been rewarding also. And pretty much, so this is an ongoing everyday challenge which we go through.
Hani, who is your role model when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Oh, wow. So I like bunch of people in the fermentation industry. Uh, there are educators, really amazing educators who go out of their way in educating. But there's somebody whom I really admired. She was an entrepreneur in the Silicon Valley, and she had started a social enterprise called Sama Source. And then she ventured into another skincare company, Lakshmi, and her name is Leila Jana. She passed away this year because of I think because of cancer, and she inspires me a lot because I could really relate to her values of social upliftment and driving social change by giving work to people, by engaging them in meaningful employment and not just charity. So she has been my role model, and I really miss her. I've had like personal conversations with her along a lot of times, and it felt like a personal loss to me earlier this year. But if your audience is interested, they should definitely check her work out. It's called Laxmi, Luxmi, and Sama Source, SAMASOURSE. Um, and she has had also written a book called Give Work. So do check her out. She has
Sure.
done
I'll
phenomenal.
mention the links in the description. Uh, uh, my next question, I think we are almost up with the interview, only 2 questions left. How do you compare entrepreneurship with a 9 to 5 job?
Um, it is different in many ways, and it is similar. Uh, Similar in a way that you have to really uh, follow discipline, because without discipline is just some like passion project, which it is not. It is serious business, and you need to have that same amount of dedication and same amount of willingness to go out of your way in your own work also, because once you have power to do what you want to do, you kind of can get strangled away. You But the discipline which you learn during your corporate experience, I think it helps a lot in keeping you focused and uh, disciplined, I would say. So, and apart from that, it is totally different. It's every day is a new experience. I'd say it could be cliched, but you don't know what's life gonna throw at you every day, and you do your best. And I realize that you have to really go for it. You cannot wait for a perfect day and time to start doing something in your entrepreneurial journey. You have to just take the step as soon as you're ready.
Honey, my last question to you. How do you suggest our audience to start their journey as entrepreneurs?
Sure. So I'd like to say that always be open to learning, always be eager to experience new things, because you never know what can ignite that spark in you, which you did not know before. I have experienced that myself, and I'm here because I said yes to something which was totally out of my league. I jumped into a volunteering opportunity, and that helped me get into fermentation in general. So always be ready for that, and do not wait for a perfect time. Just keep working on your idea from the time you decided to go for it. And uh, before you take a big step, make sure that you have the right resources at your hand. You have certain backup uh, financially to sustain your goal and sustain your life. At least have some backup there, and definitely go for it. Start from probably your corporate journey, start building towards that. That's what I did, and it's working fine so far.
Okay. On that note, I would close this session, and it was a great pleasure to host you here at ELI. I think our audience would have got great lessons from this video. Thanks for your time, Honey, and our best wishes for Kombucha Brewers India.
Thank you so much, Priya Ranjan. It was lovely speaking with you, and all the best for your audience also.
Viewers, you can follow and connect with Honey on LinkedIn by searching for Honey Islam. Also, do visit their website and associate with their brand. Uh, so, whom do you want to have here at ELI for next episode? Do let me know in comments below. We'll be back. Stay tuned to ELI.